I'm a weirdo. I've always been a weirdo. I've always felt different from everybody else. And I can't explain it. There's no tangible, concrete words. It's just something in me that I always felt like I think differently than other people. Like I don't know. I can't even now, like as an adult, I can't explain it, but I just know that there's something off, maybe just
Hmm.
a little bit, a little quirky, a little weird. And I've embraced it. I've totally embraced it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've always been drawn to the dark.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson. We are getting off the Bruce train, though I'm sure he will come up as he often does. We are on the horror and fantasy train. We are talking to my new friend, Maria. Welcome to the podcast, Maria.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes. So I am going to try to be as entertaining as I can because Maria had trouble going to sleep last night and she had to work all day. And so I need to keep her entertained. So hopefully we'll have a engaging conversation.
I'm
So
sure.
tell us a little about yourself.
I'm an author. I write dark fantasy and horror for young adults and adults. I'm also a teacher. So that's like my gig, I guess. I don't know, consumes most of my life.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty wacky kind of chick.
Where do you teach and what grade?
I teach in Florida.
Okay.
There's this little town called Lithia,
Okay.
and I teach seventh grade language arts. So I teach the kids how to read and write and all that fun
Yeah.
stuff. And I also teach, I teach a really cool class,
Okay.
journalism.
Okay.
And it's like half eighth grade, half seventh grade, and we do the yearbook for the school. So that's neat.
Maria, you mentioned that before we discussed, you asked about our language restrictions. I told her to feel free. So now I'm going to get you right. I'm going to pull you offside right away. How are you feel being a teacher in the Florida atmosphere?
People ask me this all the time.
Oh,
And
I'm
it's kind of,
sorry. I'm sorry. I asked the same question as everyone.
no, just in general, because
Yeah.
obviously the climate of everything going on, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem.
That's great.
I don't have any problem. I haven't had any issues. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that my kids trust me.
Yeah.
So everything's cool de la.
Good.
And I'm managing.
And is your school administrators supportive? And
Absolutely.
so is that part of the reason why? Because I would think most of them are, especially and absolutely once you get to college, you should be exploring a lot of different thoughts and feelings. But in junior high, you need to help the kids express themselves and learn about different things. So good for you. I know it's a hard job. It's a rewarding job.
It
I
is.
hope.
No, it is.
And
It is.
yeah. So I'm going to ask this question two ways. I usually start when I have someone who's a passionate music fan. What kind of music did your family listen to growing up? I am going to ask you that question. But when you answer that, then I want to know, were you a family of readers growing up? I always like to ask my writers that.
Okay. So which one do you want to answer
Let's do
first?
music first, and then we'll talk reading.
Okay, so growing up, my parents, they were into the oldies, I guess you could say, stuff from the 50s and 60s. My dad really into the Beatles, really into the Rolling Stones. My mom super into Kenny Rogers. So I grew up on this weird blend of country, classic rock, oldies kind of music.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you embrace that music, or were you a rebel and found your own voice music pretty soon? And then when you hit earlier, I often find this that people will rebel against their parents' music, and then when they turn 30, they'll go, "That Johnny Cash guy wasn't that bad."
Yes. That's, you know what? It's so funny that you say that because I'm smiling ear to ear because that's exactly what happened. Yeah. So as a teenager, teenage angst, I'm the weird freak gothic chick
Right.
and heavy metal, kill your mother, kill your father kind of music. And it was expressive. It spoke to me. It made me feel like it was okay to be angry at the world at this weird time in my life, the whole 9 yards, right? The whole teenage angst thing.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, yes, I rebelled. I totally went against, oh, your music sucks. I hate, right? Something weird happened when I was like in high school. I don't know,
Yeah.
later on in high school, college, maybe. I developed this like weird crush on Kenny Rogers, right? Like I
Yeah.
thought it hot in a weird, like
Yeah.
country old man dad way. And I really then appreciated his music. And then in college, being open, being more open, not to just the Pantera and the Nirvana and the Fear
Yeah.
Factory and all that stuff, right? Slipknot. I circled back and really appreciated the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And okay, yeah, I could jam to this. I'm very eclectic in my
Yeah.
music.
That's interesting. Yeah, I find there are two kinds. My guests can go into general two topics where they never abandoned their parents' music, but just expanded their horizon. Or, as
Hmm.
I said earlier, they totally went against it. And then, as in their adulthood, they discovered that there was some beauty in music in that. I quote this often, but Penn Jillette from the Magic Team, Penn and Teller, talks about that when he hears a teenager saying they love classic rock, he gets almost angry. No, you are not
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
like your parents' music. You should be in rock and roll is finding that music your parents hate or
right.
you think they're going to hate, even if they actually like it, because it's all part of the rebellion and growing up. That's
Yeah,
neat.
yeah.
All right, so let's flip. Family of readers?
No,
No. Okay.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Now, were you a reader?
Up until about ninth grade,
Okay.
I hate reading,
Okay.
but what's my thing? My dad was a storyteller, and I tell the story all the time. He would sit me down and he would read not like books or anything. He would read me the newspaper, the magazine, the back of a cereal box. He'd sit me on his
Yeah.
lap and he'd whatever read to me. And then one time he just didn't have anything to read, so he made up a story,
Okay.
and the story was this fractured fairy tale. And I was so like, whoa, dad, he's got it going on. Like, he's a storyteller. Like, I want to do that. So that like really inspired me to want to tell my own stories. And but as far as reading, my mom, they never, I don't know, they just never encouraged it, or they just let me do my own thing. Sad story, as an adult, as a writer, my mom never read any of my books ever.
Mm,
And yeah, it's a sad story. It will never leave me. She
yeah.
passed away almost 2 years ago. So it's, ah, damn you, woman.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no.
So, not quite as sad, but my wife never listens to my podcast. Oh, I feel for you. I know she was proud of you, though. I have
She
no
was.
doubt she was proud of you.
Yeah, she was in her own
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's as a dad, I wonder how much am I effing up my son, right? Right? Just
I hear
because it
you.
goes that way. Yeah. So it doesn't sound like you may have wanted to be a writer, but based on that, you wanted to be a storyteller. Is that a distinction you felt?
No, I wanted to be a writer.
Okay, you did.
I did. I did. I wanted to walk into a bookstore and point at a shelf and be like, that's mine. I did that. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to have that. And I think I wanted it to give to my dad, because I'm like, okay, spark this in me. So now I want to show you what I'm gonna do with it. I did. I think early on I really did want to be a writer
Yeah. And
in some capacity.
okay.
Does
And
that make sense?
yeah, it does. It does.
Okay.
Why this genre?
I'm weird.
Okay, there's nothing
Um,
wrong with that. I love
oh
that.
yeah, no.
Uh,
Yes.
Are you the cool teacher at school
Yeah.
in junior high?
I
Yeah, you have that burden
look, I don't want to
or
toot my
that
own
gift?
horn.
No, it's a, my grandfather used to say it's a poor frog who won't croak over his own pond. But you're like, what the hell does that mean, Grandpa? But
Look, like I hold up my like
yes,
I'm all my whole body, I'm all tatted up. I've got the
yeah,
piercing. I dress in black all the time. I talk to the kids like they're people.
Sure.
not like they're my subordinates. I talk
Right.
to them like they're actual human beings.
Yeah.
And I just have a really good rapport with them. And I think it starts there. I guess if you want to say I am, yeah, maybe I
Yeah,
am the
of
cool
course you're
teacher.
the cool teacher. How much of the double takes do you get on parent teacher night?
At first, yes.
Okay.
At first, yes. But now I've been a teacher at this one school, the same school for 19 years now.
Okay. You
They're
like
used to me.
you were
It's
like
like
10 when you started?
I've
I'm
been
sorry.
teaching for 24 years.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so they're used to me. They see me, they're like, oh, that crazy lady. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine.
And also because siblings have come back and said, "Oh, you're going to love Miss DeVio, right? You're going to
Yeah,
love Mrs. D." Yeah,
yeah,
she's
totally.
Miss D is the greatest. Yeah. What do you I'm really looking forward to hearing the Mary question from you. So
Oh,
I'm gonna hold off getting to the end. I'm gonna go through the vegetables and entree before I get to dessert, but I'm looking forward to that question. The what what was the when you decided to start telling stories and writing, and you talked about you always felt a little bit you liked being a little bit weird and working in the dark. Was there a story immediately you thought, I think I want to get this on paper? Tell me about it.
yes. Yes. And it's so funny how like everything always intertwines with my teaching life. I don't
Yeah,
know. So do we have time for a little story?
always. We have all the
Okay.
time in the world.
Yeah. So I wanted to write. I knew I always wanted to write, always wanted to be a writer, right? I'm teaching in New York because I lived there my whole life, right?
Okay.
And I moved 19 years ago, right? I'm teaching in New York. I'm teaching at a Catholic school. And it's Christmas time. And I come in, we're having this big old Christmas party, and I come in this black velvet dress, and I got a black velvet Santa Claus hat on, right? And all the kids are like, oh my God, you look like a bad elf. You look like, oh. And I go, I switched. Like, it was like instant. I go, yeah, you're all getting coal in your stocking. And I started relating this idea. I'm going to be the elf. I'm going to give them coal. And then I like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We all know the legend. If you're bad, you're getting coal in your stocking, right?
Yeah.
Who puts it there? How does it get there? We don't know really much beyond that. So
Yeah.
I took a post-it note and I wrote the coal elf and I slapped it in a binder. And I was like, okay, I had that idea in my head for years and years. And then like I moved to Florida. I got married, moved to Florida, had a kid, everything was going great. And I'm like, I gotta write that story. Like I have to. I had that idea in my head for years, and I was like, I got to get this out. And my husband was like, freaking do it.
Yeah.
So I did it.
Awesome. So what's the name of that book?
Okay, so it's the Coal Elf,
Okay.
and basic premise is it's elves at the North Pole who mine coal for the naughty kids at Christmas, and it's their story.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
And that was your first series, your first book?
Yeah, my first book, my first series, my first labor of love. Lots of blood, sweat, and tears went into that thing.
Yeah. And did it just feel natural to explore that genre and tell those stories? I'm fascinated by the premise right away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it did. It felt like when I was writing that, obviously it was my first book. I've never done that before. I've
Yeah.
always written like short stories and poetry and whatever.
Yeah.
But this was my first stab at a full length novel. But the genre, it was home. Like this was, and that story, that series is dark fantasy, there's scary parts, whatever, but it's more for young adults. It's more for, I wrote that for my kids,
Okay.
for middle school.
Okay.
Adults like it as well, but it's more for them. And then from there, I increase, and I'm like, okay, I found myself, I found my voice, and I really took off into like more adult genre.
Okay. What was your next section? What was your next series that you wanted to explore?
So then after I did the cool elf stuff, I moved on to zombies.
Okay.
Zombies with a twist.
Okay.
So I wrote my Altered series. It's called The Altered, and it's about a zombie virus that breaks out. People start eating each other, and all
Sure.
that's how it goes.
That
But a
happens.
cure is
Yeah.
found. It
Okay.
happens, right? It happens. But
Yeah.
a cure is found. And people who were infected with the virus are now transformed, but they're not human and they're not zombie. They're altered.
Okay.
So that's their story. And how
Okay.
do they fit back into society and all that?
Yeah.
And that one got more adult as so the Koloff stuff is more like the cutesy altered. Yeah, it got more
More
intense.
more intense. Yeah. Okay. Good. Do you have a preference of, or is it two different muscles? Doing the young adult fantasy or doing the adult and adult, but I'm more serious, not necessarily, though you may do a little bit erotica. I don't know. Okay, good. Okay,
Yes. Oh no, when I say adult,
okay. Adult.
adult,
Okay.
it's different. I have to temper myself when I'm writing in the young adult genre, obviously, because I can get pretty wild. I did enjoy it. I did like writing, but I think I'm more suited for the adult material. And I needed to write in the YA in order to find myself. Like I said before, like I found my voice.
Yeah.
And I feel more comfortable writing the darker, sexy stuff. That's my thing. That's what I like.
Yeah. So you've done elves, you've done zombies. What else?
I've done angels and demons.
Ah, okay. That's always a fun kind of genre to explore.
Yeah. Basic premise is angels in heaven. She's an angel in heaven. She's got to come down to earth to help this human boy on his journey in life. And she falls in love with him.
Okay.
It's a romance, but all hell breaks loose because that can't happen. And yeah, it gets very biblical,
Okay.
alternate biblical.
Do you have to do a lot of research for something like that, a series?
Yes. But I grew up in the Catholic Church. So I
Right.
had a very solid understanding of Bible verse and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
All the religious, Catholic, Christian.
Dogma. Yeah.
And yeah, so I was able to use my own knowledge. And then obviously I did do a lot of research, but
Yeah.
I had a backing. So
Yeah. What is a genre or a, it sounds like you love taking, and this is a good thing, a cliche trope and making it your own. Is there another one that you're itching to scratch?
not right now.
Okay.
Not right now. I am working on my saga. So that's
Okay.
my witches series.
Okay.
And that is going to be 10 books.
Oh, wow.
I'm currently writing book 6.
Okay.
So I've got 4 more to go after this one. So I need to see that through. And it's so intense and so interconnected that like each book is a standalone novel. Like you can read the series in any order,
Yeah.
but I have to keep all my ducks in a row. I'm very into this series. When I'm done with that, I don't know. It depends on where my brain takes me.
Okay. Good. Do you think you have interest in doing something less genre just to for a change of pace?
I haven't really thought about it.
Okay.
I haven't. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. Okay. I was watching, my husband and I, we watch true crime shows every night. And
Yeah.
we came across this one called Disappeared. And we saw this one, we're watching this episode about this girl. She was out in the woods, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I said to him, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I wrote a serial killer comedy? And I had this idea in my head. And he goes, no, don't do that. He's like, no, that's not you. Don't do that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to do that.
But it might be fun to explore that. Are you a reader now, or do you spend most time writing that you don't get a chance to read?
No, I can't. I read student essays.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
And I feel bad. I know I should read more. I know I suck at it. I'm so bad because I'm like reading a book and I go, oh, I could be writing,
You
but
know,
I'm
I
not.
often hear when I listen to podcasts with show creative people that are TV runners or showrunners or writers, they will talk about that they can't, like if they do a drama TV show, they can't watch another drama because they're critiquing it too much. Why did they do the act break there? What did they do? I would have done this
Right.
differently. So they'll watch reality or comedies. And the same
Right.
thing, a comedy writer or something says, no, I have to watch, as you said, true crime or dramas because it it's too hard to get your mind out of, oh, why did they do that choice and what's going on? I think sometimes some people still continue to love to read, but there are other people that I need to get outside my
Yeah.
area because it's too much in my head.
Yeah, there's a definite fine line between the analytical and the creative.
Yeah.
And I feel, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So I want to go back to teaching. You said literature. So what is being taught nowadays? I remember reading, I went to high school in the dark ages. I graduated high school in 77. So I
No, you
remember.
did not.
Yes, I did. Yes, I
No, you did
graduated in
not.
yes. And I remember like reading The Crucible and other things. So what is being taught now? What are your students enjoying or you're having them enjoy?
I'm forcing them
Yes.
to enjoy because we're in this TikTok era now, right?
Yes.
Our lovely county, we have this curriculum that is very, and I'll be the first one to say it's, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day, we used to read full length novels.
Sure.
We'd do a 4 week thing, a 1 month, read the book, do the questions, all that, and deep dive. It's not like that anymore. It's a lot of nonfiction
Okay.
text. It's a lot of excerpts from novels. We
Hmm.
read one novel in seventh grade.
What is that?
The Epic Fail of Arturo Zamora.
I have no idea
And
what that.
it's a newer book. It's a
Okay.
newer book. It's not anything classic.
Okay.
My daughter's in ninth grade, and she told me the other day, she's, oh yeah, we read this poem called Beowulf. And I was like, oh, you read Beowulf? You
Yeah.
didn't tell me you were reading Beowulf? She's like, we just read like a little piece of it.
Yeah.
How do you not read all of Beowulf? Like,
I don't remember Beowulf, but I remember reading The Ancient Mariner and
oh
was
yes.
fascinated by that. I think sometimes, and I've always been a reader. I'm just someone who my mom used to say, if you put Jesse Wayne in a corner with a book, he could sit there for hours. And I remember sometimes it was really cool that Mrs. Weeks, who was my high school English teacher, she was also my homeroom teacher, be like, okay, we can either read blank, the book that's in the textbook, or if everyone will order, we can read, I don't know, The Pigman or something. I don't just vaguely, there was a more modern paperback that we all
Yeah.
got through Scholastic so we could read. And I sometimes think that would be like maybe something from John Green or something to say to try to maybe make a child wake that love of reading.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's hard.
yeah,
It's hard.
yeah,
We recently, a couple weeks ago, we read Annabelle Lee. I read
okay,
with the kids,
yeah,
and they dug that. They like that a lot. And I was like, all right, if you like Annabelle Lee, let's go more into Poe. Let's go Telltale
yeah,
Heart. Let's do The Raven. So that was cool. I got to see the excitement for that. And we read the teleplay, Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, Rod Serling. And in our textbook, it's a snippet. And I was like, screw that. I'm not,
no,
you cannot read
yeah,
Rod Serling snippet.
no,
So we
no,
read the whole thing and we acted it out. And they were really hyped about it. So it's hit or miss. And it's
Did
also
you
seventh grade.
did you guys watch the teleplay then after you guys had
Yes,
read it? That's
of
cool.
course. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. We did a little compare and contrast. And then I showed them there was a 2002 version where Forrest Whitaker was the host.
Yeah,
And they had revived the Twilight Zone. It only lasted one season, but they updated the Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, and we did a compare contrast, and it was really cool. It was cool.
that sounds very cool. Good, cool. What do you wish you could cover if they gave you, okay, you've got a couple weeks or whatever would be the right amount of time to cover something, what would you want to cover?
They took it away from me. See,
Yeah.
we in seventh grade we used to be able to teach The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton,
I
which is
loved that book in junior high. Stay
Yes.
gold, Pony Boy. I keep meaning to buy it again and read it as an adult. I remember loving that book.
Yeah. So that book
Yeah.
fundamentally changed my life.
Tell me.
Like, that was the book that I read it in seventh grade.
Yeah.
And I remember my teacher telling us that, oh, Essie Hinton was 14 when she wrote this. And when she was walking off her, getting her diploma from high school, there were people down at the bottom of the stage handing her a contract to have this book published. And I remember saying, wow, if Essie Hinton can do that at 14 and write this book at 14, I'm gonna do that. And I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with that book. And that was the book that made me say, yes, I am going to be a published author. We used to be able to teach the outsiders, and then they took it away from us.
Is it
So
on
that
the bad list or
No, they said it was too young for seventh grade, so they moved it up to eighth grade.
okay.
And then the eighth graders are like, no, we don't want to read this. So now they're reading some other bullshit. Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
No, I told you you're good.
I know.
Yeah, no, you're good. I think I love that I do not have that one book that made me change or something life affirming. But I love that story and I imagine um I, I'll tell a similar story that's not about me, but someone else. A guy named Mark Evanier that has written for all kinds of books. He's written TV. He was the executive producer and writer for the Garfield comic cartoon show forever.
Yeah.
He does Gru and all this other stuff. And he was in an elevator once and Dick Van Dyke was there. And he said, I just want to let you know that I adore the Dick Van Dyke show. And Dick Van Dyke stopped him and said, you watched the show and you said, I want to be a writer because I get to hang out with people like Buddy and Sally and I get to marry Tyler Moore. And Mark
Uh-huh.
goes, yes. He said, you'd be surprised how many people tell me that story. And I imagine if you were telling Essie Hinton, she would, and this was with love in his heart. It wasn't Dick Van Dyke was belittling him. He was just going,
Right.
you are not alone in this influence, right? I'm sure Essie Hinton would go, thank you. Every time I hear that story, and I hear it a lot, it brings me joy.
I'm sure she hears that
Yeah.
constantly.
All right. You've influenced me. I'm going to order the Kindle version. I'm going to watch that. I'm going to read it again.
You need to. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember my son hated to read. And just he still doesn't like to read very much. And in fact, I told him, I said, you can't get through high school without reading a book. And when he graduated, I said, told you I could. Really? You're bragging about that? And then after he graduated college, he said, Dad, class is a lot easier if you actually read the book.
You think?
Yeah.
You think?
And I was a Cub Scout leader, and my co-leader was Miss Renee, who was a librarian. And he was telling that story to her, and she's, oh, Chris. And he said, yeah, it turns out if you actually read the book, show up at class every day, it's a lot easier to pass. And her husband, Mark, said, Chris, you will find that half the battle in real life is showing up every day, being prepared. He says that is more than
Amen.
half the battle. Yeah.
Amen.
So anyway, on his summer readings was Holes, right?
Good
And
book.
he never cared about it. I read it and was like, oh my God, what a clever book. What a book
Yes.
that is just so put together well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, please read this. And he's like, yeah, I got it, Dad.
Whatever.
I'm good. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So let's talk about music a little bit. You
Okay.
mentioned, tell me your favorite band.
My favorite band of all time is a band called Fear Factory.
Okay. And when did you discover them and what about their music spoke to you?
Okay. So I was in high school. It was actually like senior year. Yeah, senior year. It was 95.
Okay.
And I graduated in 1995. So now I'm aging myself.
Okay.
I'm in my room and I was hanging out, and a friend of mine comes over and he's put the CD in right now. And I'm like, okay. So I put in, I had this giant stereo that was a 6 CD changer with like
Yeah.
the dual cassette tape that I saved up all my money all high school. And this thing was like $750. You
Okay.
remember. I'm like, all right. So I put in the CD and he's, all right, go to this song, right? So I go to the song and it starts playing. And it was like, I'd never heard anything like that before. It blends industrial music with rock and then just the vocals. It's like that screaming, like heavy metal scream, like the growl. But then the vocalist does like this clean vocal singing over it, and it's like this harmony. And at the end of the song, it's called Zero Signal. And at the end of the song, there's like this piano mix, and it was just so beautiful. And it I don't know, it was so heavy and so aggressive, but yet it was so beautiful at the same time. And I was like, wow, I've never heard anything like this. And it just like touched my soul a little bit. And I was hooked.
The I asked this question and I preface this when I have someone like a Bruce fan on my podcast that the amount of times you've seen your favorite band is not a fair barometer of how big of a fan you are. There are
Yeah,
people that have never seen Bruce perform live that are massive fans. There's other people that because they grew up in the right era, living in the New England, Jersey area, have seen them hundreds of times.
of
But
course.
have you been able to see them perform live? And if so, do you count? Three.
3 times.
Okay.
Yep. 3 times.
Yeah. When was the first time?
Oh, geez. The first time was in the early 2000s.
Okay.
They were an opening band. And then I saw them again shortly thereafter. And then I saw them again. Those 2 times were in New York. And then I saw them again in Florida, 2000. I want to say 2006.
Yeah.
Yes, 2006.
Yeah. Talk to me about young Maria going to see her favorite band the first time. Tell me that experience.
Oh my God. That was a trip. That
Yeah.
was a trip. I was like on cloud 9. So I don't know too many people who could fall asleep at a heavy metal concert, but that would be me. The opening band, I was not like a fan of, whatever. And they were a really heavy band called Lamb of God. And I sat in the back and I propped my head back up on the wall and I just passed out, right? Listening to the
Okay.
beat, whatever. And then when they came on, when they were like getting ready, like the change stage, I shot right up. I ran to the front of the mosh pit area, and my husband
Mhm.
comes right up behind me and he's like, all right, I got, like I gotta protect you
Yeah.
because I'm a little girl, like I'm little, and I'm in this mosh pit, a violent mosh pit with all these like big dudes fighting each other over this heavy metal music, and I'm just like, in my glory. It was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Are there songs of theirs or albums that you go to on a regular basis that kind of speak to you or when you're needing refreshment or needing to be inspired?
Yes, absolutely. Their second album, Demanufacture. That was the one that my friend said, "Hey, listen to this,"
Okay.
and that's my go-to. That's their hands down their best album.
Okay. And is there any songs that are they still together? Are they still touring?
They just finished up a tour. Their original vocalist left the band, so they got this new guy in. So they've been on like a little hiatus recently, but I think they're going to be touring again next year,
Okay.
and with the new guy, with the new singer.
Sure.
So I'm definitely
Yeah.
interested
Is
to.
yeah, and are there songs that you're chasing that you want to hear them done live that you haven't heard yet?
That I haven't heard. I haven't heard anything off of their newest album, so
Okay.
that would be cool because I think their newest album is Genexus, and it is definitely number 2 as far as quality goes and
Okay.
song construction and all of that. So I have yet to hear any of those songs played live. So I think that would be, yeah, something
That's
I'm looking
cool.
forward to.
That's
Yeah.
very cool. So you mentioned that your latest series is about witches. Tell me a little bit about it.
Okay. So basically, are you familiar with American Horror Story?
Yeah, I'm familiar. Yes.
Okay. So American Horror Story, the way it's set up is each season is a different theme, but they're
Right.
all connected, right? So that's like how my Blood Witch series is. It's about witches who are just looking to open up the portal to hell and let the old gods and old demons come on earth and reign supreme, right? That's like the ultimate goal in a nutshell. It's
Okay.
obviously more involved than that.
Yeah.
But each book is a standalone. Like I said before, it could be read in any order, and it follows each witch on his or her journey throughout time of how they're going to try to get this portal opened up. And they're all based on actual events in history.
Oh, okay.
So I take the real elements of things that happen that are familiar and I make that the backdrop to what's happening within the story.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, very cool. So, have you had memorable interactions with your fans? Do you have some stories you want to share?
Yeah, it's always I do a lot of conventions, right? I
Sure.
do like the convention circuit, a lot of book signings, a lot of horror shows. I haven't really ventured outside of Florida
Okay.
just because of the job and home
Sure.
life situation, whatever. But that's coming. Like I'm eventually
Yeah.
gonna branch out to other states or whatever. But I do a lot of horror conventions. So I'm a familiar face. So people
Okay.
will walk by my table and be like, "Oh, I know you were at the last show." And I'll be like, "Yeah." I love when I get somebody who like runs up to my table and was like, "Oh, I saw on social media that you were going to be here and I saw you at such and such show like 5 months ago and I bought the first book and I read it and I loved it and now I'm here for book number 2 and I'm here for book number 3 and I'm here for you know what I mean and it's I just wanted to see you and that to know that people are reading the words that I wrote and are having an effect from them
Yeah.
it's really cool. It's a really cool feeling to have that.
When I have a real good friend named Tom Zoller who does romantic superhero romantic comedies in comic book form. And we had become friends, and so often for a while he was coming to conventions in Dallas and I would go with him, and I try to go to Dragon Con as whenever I can, and he's there at Dragon Con Atlanta. Great convention, one of the
Yeah.
best in the world. And we talked about there was nothing better than he'd be in Dallas and someone would come up and exactly say that. You were here last year and I bought the book. Do you have anything new? And he's like,
Right.
yeah. One of our best moments, and I say we because I was sharing it with him, but it was a couple, and it was very clear that the female part of the relationship was there just because he wanted to go. She had that bored look like, "Oh, I really like him, but he's going through this weird phase. I have no interest." And and Tom and I pitched and she said, "Okay, that sounds interesting. I'll take an issue." And so of course the boyfriend's thrilled, right? Oh, she's buying a comic.
She's on
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
She's on board.
And
Yeah.
so he mouths, "Thank you." The next day he came back without her. He goes, "She didn't come today. She wants her everything. She loved it. Give me everything else you have." She says, "I've got to read more of the series." And Tom and I looked at each other. I said, "Okay, that's a good moment."
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that you can, yes, it's amazing to have a lot of sales and critical acclaim. But when you have somebody who says, "Oh, I don't like horror," or "I don't like dark fantasy," and to come back and go, "Maria, I really liked this.
Yeah.
Tell me more." That's got to be a
Give
great
me
feeling.
more.
Yeah, give me
Yeah. I
more.
love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Do your students read your books sometimes?
They do. Oh, yeah, they do. I actually had one girl, she said, "Oh, I finished the Koloff and the library doesn't have the second book." And I was like, "All right, baby, I got you. I
Yeah, I
got you."
got you. Yeah,
Brought her in a copy. And she's
yeah.
like, "Okay, you have to just tell me what." And then she's asking questions like, "No,
Yes,
you read the
yes,
book,
yeah.
then we'll talk."
Absolutely. Yeah,
But yeah, no, they do. They do.
that's cool. That's good. Do you ever get feedback that they read the Elf series and they go to the stronger stuff and go, "Whoa, I was surprised"?
No, because I keep the witches books under wraps. Like I never talk about them.
Okay.
Because of the adult nature, like
Yeah.
I don't even want the kids to know that those
Sure.
books
That makes
exist.
sense. Yes.
But so they'll read. I've had a couple kids, they read The Coal Elf, and then they're like, they'll go to The Altered, and they're like, okay, because I like zombies better. It's more
Yeah.
intense, whatever. And they like it because they feel like, oh, I'm reading something more adult. Oh, Mr. Vivo said the F word on page 34. The one and only time I say the F word. But meanwhile, in The Witches, it's like sex, drugs, rock and roll, and it's only. But
Yeah. That's
you
great.
know,
That's
but
awesome.
they read my
Good.
tame
Good.
stuff.
All right. So at this point, you're focused on finishing your Witches series, correct?
Yes, yes.
All right. I'd love to have you come back when you're ready to explore what's the next phase in your literary career.
Of course.
That
I'll
sounds
come back
great.
whenever you want me. I'm
I
here.
love it, Maria. All right. Um, this has been so much fun. I appreciate the time. I feel like we could talk all night.
Oh my God, I
Uh,
know, right?
yeah. All right. We're gonna end with a Mary question, then I'm gonna let you tell everyone how you can find your books and reach out to you. But
Okay.
Jay Armstrong was an honors English teacher in the Philadelphia area.
Okay.
And when he was, in fact, he was similar to you. He started an organization called Write On, Fight On, where he had his students work on writing and he does a lot of work with his students to write. It's in high school. But his honors English classes, when they were seniors, he would give them all the lyrics to Thunder Road by Bruce Springsteen, and they would break it down as if it was a poem. And then they would talk about the imagery Bruce uses. They would talk about the themes he explores. They compare it to like to Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, and other American poets. And then at the end of the day, he would ask his class, does Mary get in the car? So first, as a teacher, wouldn't you love to be in that class?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Maria, your question is, does Mary get in the car?
Okay. So there's no wrong answer to this,
That
right?
is absolutely correct. There
Okay.
is no correct. In fact, I've started changing when I email my potential guest. I've started saying instead of the question is, I want your opinion. Does Mary get in the car? Yeah.
Okay. I think she does.
Okay.
And I have to be honest.
Sure.
When I listened to the song a couple times and I'm deaf. I'm half deaf in my right ear.
Okay.
So when I listen to music, sometimes it's hard for me to understand the lyrics, especially if it's not like that kill your mother, kill your father kind of music,
Right.
because that I can hear it, when it comes to, I feel like when it comes to Bruce Springsteen, Johnny Cash, John Mellencamp,
Yeah.
Neil Young, like the storyteller, singer,
Yeah.
songwriters, I have a really hard time hearing, like literally
Okay.
hearing it.
Okay.
So I printed out the lyrics. So I'm ahead of you. I'm reading it, and the thoughts that went through my head, and this kind of circles back to me being like different than everybody else. I got like a really different vibe than what I think is supposed to be given. I felt like the narrator was very stalker-ish. He says Mary's the dress, and he like as if he's watching her from a distance and he's like stalking her. Mary's not very pretty either, right? Mary is not very good looking.
That is one of the reasons why my wife says that she doesn't get in the car because he calls her ugly.
Yeah,
Right? She's, wait a minute. Why? Hell no, I'm not getting in the car with you. You ain't a beauty, but hey, you're all right. F you, buddy. Yes.
but I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think Mary has a choice. I think
Oh,
he's taking her in the car,
okay.
and he's gonna. And she actually might be a little okay with this at first because all the other guys that have gone away and got away and all that, and maybe she's not getting a lot of attention. And here he is. He's like, yeah, you're not pretty, but you're all right. And,
Yeah.
come take that ride with me, baby.
Yeah.
I think she goes. I think she
Okay.
goes, and I don't think it's going to end up well for her.
Okay. So I love that answer. Uh, I love that answer. I just love that answer because it's a different perspective. So
I
good
just
for
got a
you.
creepo vibe. I got a creepo vibe.
I got you.
Total creepo vibe.
Yeah. Now, I always say that to defend the narrator, I feel that Mary is always talking bad about herself, saying,
Mhm.
I'm not attractive, no one would want me, I'm old, I'm washed up, or no one. And so he's doing the acknowledgement of sales. Hey, you say you ain't a beauty, but hey, you're all right. And I'm no hero either. So I do
Sure,
that in my mind to say, no, he isn't calling her ugly. He's just trying to convince her. So that is
sure.
amazing. All right, Maria, if someone wants to reach you and find your work, what's the best way?
I'm all over social media, but if you want to get everything in one spot, you're going to go to mariadevivo.com.
Absolutely. That is perfect. All right. I want to thank you for a couple things. One, reminding me that I need to read The Outsiders. Two,
Yes,
I now want to know the story of why is are the elves slaves to Santa having to work in the coal mine? Or is that just their tradition? I don't want to know. I want to figure this out myself. And are they I love when a series is the idea of people we think are the villains. First off, every good villain is a hero in their own story, right?
absolutely.
But I love when there's the twist that I'm just doing my side of what's supposed to be done in my own way. If there isn't that counterbalance, things go wrong. So I have to do my job. And I remember there was this really Yeah, I love that premise. So I'm going to definitely check out that trilogy. So I appreciate it. Thank you. All
Thank
right,
you.
listeners, go to the website, check out the books, sign up for her newsletter. If you're going to be in a convention in Florida and Maria's there, go by and give her a hug and tell her that Jesse sent you. Listen to some loud music and
Fear Factory, baby.
yeah, Fear Factor. There we go. Maria, thank you so much. This was a joy.
Thank you.
You
I had such a good time.
I am glad. You are welcome anytime. Listeners, go. Remember to be kind, be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.